Good morning, everybody. It's 10:04 on this Thursday. Hope you guys are doing well. Enjoying the little snow globe effect we had outside here today. Yeah, the snow, very pretty out. Modeling did really well on sniffing out. They would be popping up around parts of the metro. Nice little colding in some spots. Watch out, though. There will be some slick travel in some areas, too. They get a little nice little colding on some of those side roads especially. So, again, be careful. I did see the salt trucks out, so they are taking care of it. It's not a big snow. In fact, this will be just heavy flurries in many cases, but enough to certainly cause a light colding in a couple of areas. And we're not done with that, too, by the way. I think we'll have more of that kind of vibe here over the next couple of days. So while we're talking about the warming trend, you really are not going to notice much change on that until briefly next week. There are a lot of questions that we need to hash out for next week. In fact, let me just go ahead and go right into the snowboard because that will basically cover what I'm trying to explain as we head into next week. Well, first off, in the short term, we've got the flurries today, but tomorrow will be a mix, if you will, of mixed types as far as some freezing rain and most of that's probably going to be sleet and rain snow mix, though. I don't think it's going to have a ton of freezing rain with this, but more of a sloppy setup during the day. Wet snow showers, similar to what we had the other day, where temperatures being above freezing played in our favor for the majority of the event. It will not be as heavy, though, as we saw the other day. So, again, the daytime arrival of this should work in our favor to keep this relatively under control, but still messy out for the daytime Friday. Friday night and Saturday is different. We're going to get colder, and we're going to get more of the streamers from Lake Michigan that'll move in. So those snow showers will have a little more of a kick to them and will likely create more problems on the area roads. So slick travel will come into play Friday night, and really not a ton of improvement there on Saturday. And then some snow showers as we head into Super Bowl Sunday, mainly to the east. We'll be watching that carefully. And then Valentine's weekend, I've labeled it now as a setup to watch. And it's got quite the extreme potential on the outcomes on that. And I'll go into more detail again coming up in just a few more minutes. As always, you guys can comment on the social media side, on YouTube, a lot of you on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And I'll try to walk you through it as easily as I can anyway. Very cold look once again to the Ohio. Look at the ice still again on the Ohio. And now we got these flurries been flying on by. A lot of that's been sticking to some of the ice. So it creates that look that it's solid sheet of ice on the Ohio. It's not the case. So please do not try to walk in the Ohio. It's sad to have to say that, but I feel like we need to these days. No, don't walk across it. But it is adding a little bit of that coating there on top of the icy patches flowing down the Ohio. It's going to take a while to get rid of those too until really we get a substantial warm up that will last more than just a day or two. All right, currently outside, ooh, it's cold, right? 16. A little breezy, and in some cases out there, that is something blow around most of the flurries. In areas you have a little bit of a lighter wind, you will end up with more of it sticking on the cars and rooftops as well. All right. Hold on. We got a spammer, I think, here. Hold on 1 second. Oh, we can put people on timeout now. All right. Nice. It's almost like being on Twitch. Well, get ready. Get ready. Got a lot of you on my list for time. I'm just teasing. Actually, not 3 of you, maybe 4. All right, 16 in Louisville now, 13 in Corden, 18 in Litchfield. All right, there are the flurries that are flying around, and they look like they're only in Louisville. It's not the case. It's just that when you deal with a flurry setup, they're only going to typically show up around radar beams more than anywhere. So they just enhance more when the radar detects them, near Fort Knox. But we do have scatter flurries kind of all over the place. And again, this is relatively light stuff. It's Arctic air in place today, so that's allowing for it to really fly around and have no problem accumulating as we head throughout the next couple of hours. We'll get some sun mixed in. That will only help generate more flurries. So it'll be back and forth on the snow globe today. Here is Futurecast. Doesn't see that very well, and the most updated version of it, not surprising. They never do with Arctic air, but it's very common to see that. Now, tomorrow's where things get a little weird. Tomorrow, we've got a warm front that will be sliding in a very much a north-south fashion as we get into Friday morning. That'll be heading due east. And it will be part of a warm front, actually, that'll be sliding towards Cincinnati by the time we get to lunch tomorrow. And it's a race of that warm boundary, 32 and up on air, arriving toward I-75 as we head toward lunch, because moisture is also going to be heading due south at the same time. Where the two overlap, which will likely be in our eastern counties, that is where you're going to get a little bit more of the mix. And if you're far enough east, which Cincinnati will be, Lexington will be, you'll stay in the colder air enough for the rest of the day that you will stay snow. But for those of us near 65 and just east, we will likely see more of a rain-snow mix. And if you're west of that line, the moisture won't even reach you. So it's all the eastern side here. So here it is on Futurecast. We get to 3 o'clock in the morning, still those leftover flurries still flying around. Here we go tomorrow. It drops down. And again, it's painting. It's one of our in-house models, the graph showing it's very ragged looking. So it's hard to show a definitive line, but you get the idea. It'll be roughly along and just east of 65, very parallel to it. That's where we're going to run into a bit more of a rain-snow mix, especially in the Louisville metro. Very common for the sort of heat island effect to be at play here. So that usually will work in our favor to keep it much more of a mix. But Oldham County may stay snow, actually. It wouldn't surprise me. Shelby County, same story, into maybe Spencer, Carroll, and even into Indiana. And again, if you're rural west, you may get a few flurries, but anything they can accumulate will be on the eastern side here. This is no doubt another Ohio snow event. And it could be a few inches for them. And Northeast Kentucky as well. Could get advisories out for that mess later on today. So nice little dive of clipper snow coming their way. But again, once we get past that, we switch gears. We get past sunset. Now we're in a different ball game here. Now we are dealing with the cold front that has already been passing through the area. So again, the warm front is going to be sliding in west to east, and then the cold front will have a bit more of a different orientation. It'll be east-west and sliding due south. It's like whew, one goes by, and then the other one drops down from the north. And it's that close together, 1 and 2. And that will all happen in about a 6-7 hour window. It's part 2 with the cold front dropping due south. That's the one that's going to induce the lake effect snow that may stretch all the way down toward Louisville and central Kentucky. It's possible. These are the ones, though, they can put down a nice little coating, maybe up to an inch in a couple areas, but much harder to forecast because they are wind direction based. So as the wind kind of slowly works its way across Indiana, if it has a little bit of a wiggle to it, then that's where the snow band will go. It'll follow the wind. So sometimes usually you get these streamers, you can get snow right along it, and you could be east and or west of it, either side of it there, and you get nothing. So hard to draw a snow map for that. Just know that if you get underneath one of those, visibility will drop and slick conditions will start to develop. So please be careful traveling. Fair enough? All right, those will continue until we get into later on in the night. Sometimes these streamers can linger for a bit. And I've included all the way into at least Saturday for some lingering snow showers and flurries that'll be around. And then there's another wave of moisture that'll dive in from southwest Michigan, Super Bowl morning, that will dive in a near similar spot as the one tomorrow, but this one's going to be all cold. So right now, I think it may be too far out of our reach to run into any issues with that, but it started here earlier this week into the eastern parts of the Ohio Valley, and it keeps trending a little more west. So it wouldn't surprise me that it may trend a little closer, and we may end up early on Sunday with some snow showers in parts of Indiana and the bluegrass area of Kentucky. I think it's got a limit to it. Can't keep going far west, but it may get a little, maybe a smidge closer. But these are all light events, but it will certainly keep it wintry outside in that snow globe effect. And at times you'll get a light accumulation that'll take place as these drift through. And speaking of that, thoughts right now on the grassy setup for tomorrow. And most of this will be a grassy accumulation because we may get up to about 35, 36 here in Louisville. Wouldn't surprise me when this mix is happening. So yeah, I mean, if it's coming down hard enough, it can stick. Yeah, in the grassy areas, car tops, rooftops, that kind of thing. But as far as road travel, just wet or slushy at best. And again, it's got a very sharp cutoff on impacts on that. If you are traveling up 71 to Cincinnati or east on 64 toward Lexington, you may run into a few more issues for slick travel because of that. But most of the area, most of you that are watching, yeah, you'll be fine. All right, we get into Friday night and Saturday. That's going to be a little more widespread of a general forecast. We really can't get too specific on that just because the streamers will be very localized, how they kind of fly through the Ohio Valley. So they do not follow a contour of a map that we draw. But just to give you an idea, what are the potential amounts you can get under those, an inch or less. Easy enough, right? Everyone good on that, on the weekend setup? Type 555 also known as the best prefix phone number in Hollywood back in the 70s and 80s, even the 90s. I think they used 555, right? And they stopped doing it. Now I don't know if I think they actually use real numbers now. They're just like, dummy numbers, if you will, so they'll go anywhere. But for a while, it was always 555. Let's see. Go on skiing, Dan says. Perfect North. You're gonna get some fresh snow? Yeah, I could. Very well. Good day for that. You'll have a mix of sun and snow back and forth, so make sure you got the goggles, I'm sure you know, as you're going skiing, because it could be bright at times in between all those. All right. Everyone seems good. Good. Everyone's already thinking big snow. Just because Valentine's Day is a system to watch doesn't necessarily mean a big snow. Let me explain how that's going to play out. It is going to be complex because we are not exactly in a full-on pattern change, but there's no doubt it's a different configuration into next week. I don't think it's settled yet on its final look, and it may only be temporary. We may get right back into an Arctic setup as we close out the month and head into March. But as of right now, there's no doubt it's going to be a little odd for next week. And yes, it will feature some warmer air. It will feature some rain, some thunder, but we're not quite done with the wintry aspects. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you the Euro. This is the best way I can find to at least give you the groundwork on how this will look. As we get into early next week, I think quiet really for Monday and most of Tuesday. We get into Wednesday, we're going to get some of the warmer air back into the 50s. Part of Tuesday, too, we'll get into the 50s. But this first system, it's a two-parter deal here. So this first one that arrives will be in the middle of next week. The question that, from what I can tell so far on this, is the intensity of how this midweek system will play out. If it is a weak system, there is one right in behind it, which will be our Valentine system. If this midweek system is weak, the one toward Valentine's Day has a better chance to be a stronger system, therefore a warmer system, therefore thunderstorms come into play for Valentine's. If the system for the middle of the week is stronger than expected, it will force the Valentine's Day system to be a little more suppressed, and therefore a little weaker, but more of a suppressed system and a little bit more of a wintry look. So the middle of the week system is key on how Valentine's is going to play out. We've seen this many times before as we talk about the whole cause and effect. One system affects the other, right? This is a great example of that because they're very close together on timing. So if one is off, so will the second one. As of now, we're thinking this is going to warm up enough to get a little bit of thunder. I will say the Euro's not overly strong with this system. I mean, it's decent, but it's not a full-fledged, I would say, mid-latitude cyclone here. I think it develops at least some fronts where we get some snow on the northern side, some rain and thunder with temperatures, again, likely trying to get into the 50s. Some of the data was trying to push us in the 60s. Can't go too fast with warm-ups with more than a half a foot of snow on the ground, especially in Indiana. You got to shave off temperatures on forecast. And until that snow is all gone, you really can't trust model outputs on temperature. You got to trim, got to adjust. So we're going with 50s. Some of the data is warmer than that. I'm very suspect of that until that snowpack is gone. It's a very common area we run into anywhere in the country, really, when you got a snowpack. You got to override the model. Can't just take the model at face value there. Anyway, eventually, if we get into the 50s for a couple of days, and that's certainly going to do a number of the snowpack, don't get me wrong, it will likely erase it in many cases, especially for Kentucky. We get into Thursday, again, rain and thunder. Now we get the Valentine's Day system that's showing up. Again, this system, its intensity will be key because as the next low rolls out, it has a chance to be a full-on mid-latitude cyclone, a little bit of, I would say, full-on Arctic air. It's more of like stale Canadian air. That's the best way I can describe it, but just cold enough to allow for a more wintry aspect to this for the night before Valentine's, so the 13th, really. And that would be thunderstorms. Some of those could be strong, actually, on the leading edge. Kentucky is, I mean, if you take it at face value, we would have the threat of everything, really, right through our area, which is nice. And then likely ending a snow, and then comes to an end as just a snow globe for a few days. Again, this is not an Arctic blast. All right, this is just stale Canadian air. So, but as we just saw the other day, with the big flakes that were coming down, you only need just enough cold air to have fun around here, right? You don't need that true Arctic stuff. So this gets very complex because every model is going to look a little different. They're all have little vary intensities on the midweek system, and then the final outcome for Valentine's is a little different. I will say that at the severe weather parameters that I've been looking at from AI and the learning modules are not there. They're not sniffing this out as a severe weather event, which should be interesting to see how that plays out. Maybe they're already sensing the idea that this is not going to be a warm core system for us as far as it having a lot of rain and thunderstorms in the area, at least on the thunderstorm side. It may be more wintry, but we'll see. Sometimes that signal can lag a bit. Either way, what I want you guys to take from this is that whether it is going to be snow or thunderstorms or rain, likely it will be significant amounts of an impactful system for Valentine's. So if it's all rain and say we avoid snow and we avoid severe weather, it's just flat out rain, that's going to lead to some high water issues and flooding. So it will be a messy Valentine's weekend. We're highly confident on Valentine's weekend just being messy no matter what. So if you're trying to make plans, most people plan things inside anyway for Valentine's with their sweetheart. Certainly this year that would do that. Now it's an issue of whether or not you can get to dinner or not, right? If it's something wintry, I get that. Let me show you on the piece of data we've looked at. This is looking at, this is the Euro idea. It's ensembles. No, that's a lot of pretty colors. We're right here. This is where it thinks the low pressures will be, potentially low pressures, as we end about Tuesday and Wednesday. And it's showing them here in the Midwest. So yeah, it does see the midweek system. It already sees the Valentine system too here. But it doesn't know where to put the low at. So it's kind of varying. And most of the pressures are actually fairly weak, about 1,000, 1,005 millibars. Not many of them are below 1,000, which tells me, again, it's just a general low pressure, but nothing too wild. So let's advance this and get into the system for Valentine's. Well, obviously confidence goes down because, boy, it doesn't know where to put the low, right? It's everywhere, over here, over there. Everyone gets a low. There's some speed issues that are happening here. But there are a lot more that are below 1,000 than the first low had. Not a dramatic difference, but enough to indicate that this probably would be a stronger system, at least a colder one, I should say, not really stronger, but a colder one that may get involved. So a lot of questions to ask on how this will play out on the 1-2 punch. Looking at the matrix on this, just curious. Here are snow showers the next couple of days, and you can see that, yeah, it does indicate we can get some light accumulations, which we've already seen that today, but that will be the trend too. For these snow showers in the streamers from the lakes, or I should say Lake Michigan. A little hint of that Sunday wave, right? It's kind of just barely there east of us. All right, then we get into Valentine's weekend, and it's not filled in, but you can see that the Euro is sniffing out that, well, we know that if it does end up turning into a wintry system, it could be something interesting on that side. But this is a stressful one in the sense of how to communicate this to you all, because, again, it could be a soggy, rainy day, no issues. It could be a round of thunderstorms that may feature strong storms, or it may end up being a winter storm. Not an easy forecast when you get all three. The time of the year now, we're going to be stressed out more without the absence, or with the absence, I should say, with Arctic air. Now it gets a little more complex, right? It's not as easy to sniff these out, but I do think there will be an interesting cyclone crossing the Ohio Valley at that time, and I think it does bear watching. And that's about all I can say at this point with any amount of confidence as a system to watch. We got a week, plenty of time. Any questions on this? I hope that all made sense. And these are things behind the scenes we're going to be evaluating for the rest of this week into the weekend. We're going to be looking at these kind of trends to see which one is going to be the lead for next week, and then how they're going to interact. And hopefully that will help give you a little bit behind the scenes look of if you notice something that's a little off in the forecast or a trend one way or another, in the back of your mind what has been happening with these two systems as you see the 10-day kind of evolve. You still got 5 on the ground there, Adam? Yeah, I mean, you got to get rid of the snowpack first, and that goes without saying. As I mentioned before, you don't warm up too fast, and you don't want a lot of rain either, because it just leads to flooding issues. It does every time we see this. So we don't want it to get a little too wild. But right now we'll go with maybe up to 57 with that first little wave. That's fair. I think 57 is fair, and that's mainly Kentucky. Indiana, no, you're not going to get there. You may get to 50 with this warmth. I don't think you're getting much above it for right now. You got a lot more of the snowpack to get rid of. But for Kentucky, it won't take long to wipe that 3 to 4 inches that we've got on the ground. But then you see the cooling effect that has for Wednesday and Thursday. We step down a bit because of that first low, which puts us in a little more prime spot for some issues for Valentine's weekend. But again, devil's advocate is that if this midweek system is weaker than expected, then all those numbers you see towards Saturday will go up. They'll be warmer, and it'll be rain and thunderstorms. So very low confidence forecast. We're going to keep the chances low, and it's up to you. It's your homework is to stay close to the change and keep checking back in with us. Don't take this the gospel as this is the game plan. I guarantee you we'll change. But it's going to be an interesting one. Meteorologically speaking, it's going to be interesting to see. Because all the teleconnections are all lining up for a warm system, for sure. MGO, all of them are lining up to a warmer idea, but doesn't always necessarily avoid wintry weather. That's not true. You're just looking at a weather general pattern here, but these systems can sneak in under the radar and get a little more exciting. All right. Happy Weather Person Day. Thank you, Alicia. Appreciate it. Is it Alicia? Yeah, Alicia. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Rain on spring, but I'm afraid, Brandon says, of another flooding type of setup. Yeah, you know, that is something that that again, I've been saying that it does worry me because we've seen it so many times, right? That we'd run into a frozen ground for weeks on end, right? And then especially with that sleet layer that we got now, once we get the rain on top of that sleet layer, it will actually pool on top of the sleet layer in your yard, not soak in like it would with snow. Therefore, to get the water into the soil that's underneath your snowpack, that's going to be harder to do. So the first rain event we get for the middle of the week, a lot of that is going to pool, which means a lot of hydroplaning issues on interstates. We'll have more traffic issues with the rain set up for the middle of the week than we've had in a while, just because of the idea of everything pooling on top of that sleet layer. Once we get rid of that, then the water can soak into the ground. That's fair, but it's still a lot of water we're putting into the ground in two different ways. And that's going to lead to a higher water table and easier to get flash flooding that can happen, especially if we see a repeating round of these systems. And there are quite a few of them stacked up. We don't want that into spring. We know how that went for Thunder over Louisville last year, right? So this is kind of how it started to evolve. It was about this time and just kept piling on and piling on. So let's try not to repeat that somehow, please. Hey, Kathy, I don't think you can see my comment. I can. Happy Weather Person Day. Really appreciate, enjoy it. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is the one holiday we get, although there's no card. I don't think there's ever a card in Hallmark for it. Usually we get ice cream. I don't know if we've got ice cream yet today or not. Not that I would eat it. It's just the thought. All right. What's grass? Funny. All right. Everyone seems all right. Everyone seems good. All right, everyone. I'm going to leave it at that for now. We're going to look over the midday data on these little snow chances. We don't want these to sneak by here with any more minor amounts, especially for Friday night. So we'll be working on that aspect, and we'll keep an eye on the extended into next week. But I assure you, it's going to take several more days to resolve the rest of that 10-day. So, and you may see it change back and forth based on support of one way or another, or one of the two systems. Different meteorologists may have different opinions of what they believe is more likely to happen. So you may see a lot of shifting going around, and that's fair. It is not an easy one to look at and say, this is what's going to happen. So it's got its share of challenges. So it is going to be a fun week with you all next week. So buckle up and hang tight. All right, I'm going to run. We'll see you guys coming up on midday at 11 a.m., everybody. All right, take care. See you soon.